So namaste everyone, welcome to our session. Today we are going to be talking about ancestors, whether they are our friends or our foes. So before that, let's do a quick invocation. Please think of your, whoever you pray to, the Supreme God, or your guru or anybody who you pray to, who you believe in, okay? So let's invoke for their blessings. To the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother, we thank you for your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, divine guidance, divine love, mercy, inner healing, physical healing. Thank you for the inner strength to practice regularly. Thank you for your divine help and protection, for illumination, abundance, and prosperity. We thank you in full faith. Okay. So how many of us are aware of Shraddh, or how many of us actually do Shraddh? Can you just kind of like, maybe raise your hand or something like that, electronically or on video, just so I can see. How many of us perform Shraddh for our ancestors? Okay. So for those of us who don't, would you like to, unmute and just tell us why? You don't? Yeah.
Ma'am. The dead people, ma'am, actually, I don't know how they have connection with us, because maybe again they might have taken birth there and all. We don't know, but how come that custom has been followed? It's I think in only Hindu rituals we have those things. None other than this thing. Nobody does that such things actually.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. I'm just guessing it actually.
Actually, a lot of cultures have it, especially the Chinese. And when I went to
Okay.
Hong Kong, they have a specific day on
Okay.
which to remember their ancestors. In the other religions that I've seen, some people will go to the cemetery on their parents' death anniversary or whatever, and visit. But anyway, good to get that perspective that, you're not sure what the connection is, right? That was what I understood as the main reason. Okay, so let's get started. So first, the topic that I picked up was, ancestors, foes, or friends. So how many of us feel that our ancestors affect us, and how many of us do it out of fear? We do Shraddh because we're supposed to, because someone told us to. Come on. Let's go fast. Nobody has any thoughts on that? Okay, so for me personally, I used to do Shraddh in whenever my Dadima told me to, simply because she told me to. Okay. And I remember it being a big mega function where there were like a lot of people, a lot of Brahmins had to be fed. And, while we were feeding them, we were thinking like, why do these people even need to eat? Because, sometimes they were like overweight, unfortunately. But that was again my perspective as a child. So now coming to the next topic, which is, we also are suggested that we remember our ancestors across 7 generations. So why 7 generations? Have you ever thought of that? For those, any Aratik yogis here?
Because it's cyclic every 7 years.
But why 7? We could have had 8.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Is that something to do with the belief that beyond 7th, those karmas are reconciled, and possibly from 7th onward needs to be reconciled?
Okay, that's a good point. All right. That's interesting. So 7 generations, like we have, 7 colors of the rainbow. We talk about 7 rays of types of people. We also talk about the 7 C's. So, 7 is like an important number. Now, let's just go on, and then we'll understand the topic together. We'll discuss it. Okay. Now, when I look at 7 generations, what I did is I made this chart. Actually, Master Marilag has inspired this chart. But anyway, I made this chart, and of course, my ancestors' names are not on it. But if you just begin to look at the sheer number of people that we can see on this chart, and this is not counting, other branches and other cousins and things like that. So one thing that I would suggest after this session, and if you want to just start looking into your family history. Okay. Why? Because sometimes what happens is that, as someone was saying, that the karmas need to be repaid. That's true. But why should we be repaying the karma? Why should we be repaying somebody else's karma?
We are carrying those genes within us, right? That
Okay.
information is passing through.
So genetically
uh,
speaking.
Yes, genetically, this information is getting transmitted through so many generations, and possibly that is the mechanism by which the karmas are even getting transmitted, right? Of course,
Yes.
one is the spiritual way through the seeds, but
Okay.
biologically, physically, it will come through the parents, and who received it through their parents, through their parents, through their parents. So that is the mechanism by which it will come, right?
Have
Physically,
you by
finally.
any chance done the Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul workshop?
Yes, I have done, and I have done my erratic prep, so it is definitely a much
Yeah.
needed. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that we realize is that, any kind of karma that we are working out is being worked out by us with somebody with whom we had a previous relationship also. So why are we working it out now? And why should we bother?
Possibly that is the soul contract, right? We don't know. That's a separate matter.
Yes. So my understanding is that, for 7 generations, some of the characteristics in a family tend to get repeated. So, 7 generations backwards, if we go, we find diseases, we find genetic problems. Sometimes we also find family patterns. So, for example, on this particular slide that I was sharing, when I wrote down I just kind of wrote down and randomly. But if you can see that we are talking here about, here, if I just look at this, and coming from a pranic healing point of view, I started to observe what is the pattern that is coming down in the family. And sometimes, I mean, we've had a couple of other sessions on this, for example, for compulsive eating, that if you are facing compulsive eating in the family, then is it possible that you have not been feeding your ancestors properly? Okay. Now, one of the things that is that when we put out this food, the understanding that I have is that if the ancestor is still looking for that food, is craving for food, then you are feeding it. Now, the question is, why would the ancestor be floating around? Why would they not have merged with the light? So if they haven't
Because of
merged,
the purging process.
because of the purging process.
Hmm.
Okay. So what is the purging process?
I think there are still attachments for the soul.
Okay.
And it hovers, this is what I've heard, that sometimes a mother is very worried about her daughter if she leaves. So I think that might be one of the reasons.
The mother is worried about the child, and therefore what is happening?
If the mother has passed away, and
Mhm.
then it is said that the soul hovers because she's worried about what will happen to a daughter or son, or in that context.
So basically the soul
There's
has
attachment.
not left. So that kind of a soul will hover around and create all kinds of disturbances, right? So one of the reasons why we perform Shraddh is to actually allow the soul to leave. Why is it done? So that, when we pray or when we perform certain rituals, then it's kind of like letting them know that they are remembered and that we are praying for them. Now, of course, these days, Shraddh has sometimes, at least, I don't know, around the people that I am with, has become uh more of an eating festival. It's like, let's just, have food made for them and that's it. And the prayers have kind of stopped. But for those of us who are healers, and even those of us who are not, some of the Theosophical Society uh, writings basically talk about how when the soul leaves the body, it hovers around for a certain time. And that is probably why when someone passes away, the entire family gathers. Now, somebody told me once, it's like, why do we put a, fool mala on, why do we put a fool mala on somebody's portrait who is, I don't know, not alive anymore? Can they see it? Can they see it? Can they not see it?
It's a
So,
mark of respect, no?
Respect, yes, but why? If we are coming from an energy school, so we're just trying to understand more. So yes, respect is a good answer, I suppose. But what I'm also saying is that, why? Why should we put a mala? So I don't know how many of you have seen the movie Bhutnath that had Amitabh Bachchan in it. Do you remember? Has
Yeah.
anyone seen that movie?
Yes.
Where he falls from the stairs and he's still running after his son who is leaving. And after some time, he comes back into the house because they don't stop. He comes back into the house and he sees his own body lying at the base of the stairs. And that's when he realizes that, oops, I'm dead. And it takes him some time to realize that. I don't know if you guys remember that, but it's interesting because I feel that it is kind of a representation that one is dead, because one may or may not realize that one is dead. You'd be like, how ridiculous is that? Well, let's go further. So when we are sleeping at night, okay, the body remains on the bed, right? And the soul travels to the astral world. Now, in the astral world, at any given point of time, there are people who are sleeping. There are people who have been disembodied, who are kind of waiting, like somebody mentioned, purging. So they are kind of like waiting in that zone. And so at any given point of time, 1/3 of the population of the earth is probably on the astral world, right? So when we go to the astral world and we have a dream or something like that, we think it's completely real. Sometimes we can't remember what it is. And in order to remember our dreams, that is when, in Arhatic yoga, we do Kundalini meditation, right? We're not going to get into details about that. This is really more of an orientation session. It's to get people excited about spirituality and to, want to understand more about it. Okay. So again, where I was that, when the soul leaves the body, it sometimes does not know that it's dead. So when it hovers around and it sees that, all kinds of people have come to its home and that there is this full mala on their photo, that's when they know that it's dead. So sometimes we don't know that we're dead. So that's one of the reasons that, it's kind of what I thought of. It's my understanding. It's not taken from anywhere. It's not validated by anybody. So again, it's just my own perspective. So any thoughts on that? Any thoughts? People? No
I
thought?
think it's our way of remembering them, mourning them, because I feel when one soul is lost and some near one is not there with us, and that is the way we basically remember them. So in a way that we if they would have been in a physical world with us, we would have given them food, we would have played with them, we would have spent time with them. But we are unable to do that, hence we do the Fool Mala. Maybe.
But the full mala is not done every time. The full mala is done, once a year, right? You don't put a full mala on ancestors every day. Or maybe some people do. And
Yes.
that's also why I feel that the timing, it's like usually it used to be 40 days of mourning. So my understanding was that it takes that kind of time for the soul to sometimes, you know, realize what's happening. So someone asked a question, when we are going to take birth, do we take permission from all 7 ancestors, which is why we remember them every year? So again, the way I look at this is that, and it's not to talk about me, it's just to talk about my understanding. Okay, I may be completely wrong. So we are here to kind of stimulate our minds and explore this topic, right? So my understanding is that if one has, and somebody also mentioned group karma, like Neha mentioned group karma. So I feel that if there is some karma that one did not work out in a previous lifetime, and it has to be worked out with the same people, right? Because we talk about group karma. So if it has to be worked out with the same people, then the tendency is to reincarnate in the same family, or, in the branch of a family, or in another family where there's some karma to be worked out, and then you get married to somebody with whom you have to work out karma. So again, achieving oneness is very interesting from that perspective, because it kind of makes us think of our karma, the things, the interpersonal relationships that we have. So I'm not going to give away the secret of achieving oneness, but I think for me, it was like a major eye opener. It's like, oops, people who we thought uh, were really enemies, turns out that they're actually, our soul group. And it's almost like, a play, like, when we have a school play, like I'm sure most of us have seen a school play, or maybe we've been in a school play. So what happens in a school play? Like, all your friends, all of us get together and we have these roles. And some of us are against each other, right? So there's a villain, there's a hero, heroine, whatever, like however the play is structured. But behind the stage, we are all good friends. Like, it's just on stage that we are fighting, or we have this conflict going on. And through that conflict, a message is conveyed to the audience, and even to ourselves. Because if you ever participated in a play, it, the character kind of enters you, right? So what I guess the point I'm trying to make is that the people who we are close with, the people who we are fighting with, if you just take the play analogy, then what we are essentially saying is that these people are people who we are great friends with. They are our soul partners, they are our soul groups, and we are just working out interpersonal karma and learning lessons together. Okay, so I just find that pretty exciting. Then, like,
Chitu,
yes,
Ramesh here, I have a small question.
yes, sir. Tell me.
You said this full mala thing and all when we are talking. So when the soul leaves the body, can the soul see what is happening in the physical plane?
Yes, that's my understanding. That they can
So the
see.
physical action, what we do is they can easily
They can
see.
see that. They cannot participate with us necessarily. So again, I'm just picking up movies and sharing examples of movies because I think it's just sometimes relatable. So if you remember that movie, I think it's called Ghosts, and it had Patrick Swayze in it, where he also dies and he doesn't realize that he's dead, and suddenly, he's dealing with the world. And he kicks a can and he realizes he can't kick the can. This is when he's like newly dead. And after some time, he learns how to kick the can, even though he's alive, even though he's still obviously dead. So again, if you read Arthur Powell's books, if you read The Astral Body, then he talks about how in the astral world, we can manifest anything that we want. So what does that mean? If you want a golden house, you can manifest it. If you want ice cream, you can manifest it. But the problem is that we don't have a physical body to enjoy that ice cream with. Okay, so my understanding is that when we are feeding Brahmins or we are feeding other people, those are the people who are allowing the soul to use their body temporarily during the Shraddh or in those 12 days after death, and allowing them to enjoy whatever food or things that they liked. So I'll just give you an example. It's someone who I know, and so in our traditions we call that person abhyagat. Okay, and that person basically you kind of feed that person for like 12 days. And this abhyagat who came was, I mean, actually I'm talking about my father, but anyway, so when this abhyagat came, he was offered coffee because my dad used to have this, he used to have this beer mug full of coffee. And we used to give him food that dad liked or whatever. And the interesting thing was, after 2-3 days, all he wanted was coffee. He just wanted that he would, and I think he was mute, so he couldn't really speak. So he would just like make these actions like, I want the coffee. And on the final day also, he just had coffee and he left. And my cousin, I remember telling me that her mother-in-law, when she passed away, the abhyagat who came was known to be a very irritable kind of lady. But her mother-in-law was a very cool, calm, soft, kind, uh, gentle lady. So what she felt is that, it was her mother-in-law using that person's body, because that kind of nature was not known for this person who was the abhyagat. Okay, so Garima's question is, are we not making the dead indulge by more such practices? Doesn't it make them linger more? So yes and no. I mean, no, because we are also supposed to be doing prayers. We are also supposed to help them in some ways to realize that they don't have a body. They are not welcome in the house apart from this one day in the year or 2 days in the year or whatever it is. So okay, so on the linger thing, I want to say that, how we have cravings for certain things. yes, we should definitely bless them and let them go, but you have to first call them, no? And then bless them and let them go. But anyway, what I was saying is that suppose we have a craving for something and it's just not going away. It's a very good idea to offer that on during Shraddh to your ancestors and see what happens. Yes, Sapna.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good
Ma'am,
evening.
I would like to say uh,
Yeah.
everyone would like to see their loved one happy. Then when a person leave their physical body, so why do they curse? Like generally we heard there is Pitrdos, there is Pitrdos. They are our family members, na. So why would they curse us?
Have you done Aratik Yoga?
No.
Have you done Achieving Oneness with the Higher Soul?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you probably need to just, again, read the book. And even if you don't read the book, even if you're like a newcomer here, the law of karma is basically at work. So when someone is cursing somebody, it basically means that they may have done something to them, which is causing somebody to curse somebody, right? So one thing that comes in to my mind very often is the law of forgiveness, because Master Cho says in the book, The Existence of God is Self-Evident, that it is the law of forgiveness and mercy that supersedes the law of karma. है ना? So if we are able to forgive them, even if they've cursed, suppose I got very angry with somebody and I said something, but if that person is able to forgive me, then they don't have to go through my curse. And again, in other books that we have in our school, including Pranic Psychic Self-Defense, we also talk about it there, that blessing people, being kind, doing twin hearts meditation, blessing your ancestors are all important practices for the purpose of changing one's own life, right? We change our own life with this stuff. And as far as extending their desires which bind them, or that they've lost the light, yeah, they may have lost the light, but that is exactly why we are performing the Shraddh. We are performing the Shraddh for the 7 generations above, who, out of which anyone may be, we don't know exactly who is still hovering around. So because we don't know, we just do the Shraddh for everybody. And, we just kind of hope that the prayers that we're doing and the mantras that are being read will help them realize that they'll be better off if they merge with the light. Does that make sense?
Ma'am, generally, when there is some problem in our life, we consult some astrologer or someone else. They said there is Pitrdosh and do this puja and that puja or do this donation, whatever. So my another point is, if my ancestors want something from me, so as a family member, they can ask from me na, instead of troubling
How will
me
they ask
or
you?
in,
How will they
instead
communicate
of
with
creating
you?
obstacle in my life. So
How will they communicate? But unless they, unless they send us a message somehow, we don't listen.
okay.
Like, think about it. If you have a child and you've gone to a mela and the child keeps saying, Mama, 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 what do most of us do? Chip rao, be quiet. Hold my hand. When do we actually listen? When the child goes out of control, that's when we actually listen. So maybe that's why. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, we are, my sessions tend to be more of like discussions and, all of us exploring together what the answers may be.
Okay.
So if somebody is telling you to do a puja and you do the puja, is there any harm in it?
No, not at all. But
Go ahead.
still
Do it.
things are not changing. But still things are not changing. So
So, another thing about the word Shraddh, if you just change it a little bit, there's also Shraddha, no? So sometimes we are doing the Shraddh, but are we doing it because we want our dead ancestors to be relieved? Or are we doing it only because we want ourselves to be relieved? Like, is it just out of pure selfishness? or is it a combination? Like, you also benefit and I also benefit.
Right. This
So
is the
sometimes
main.
I think about it that way, because I know a lot of people who find this whole process very irritating and annoying. It's like, oh my God, Shraddh is here. A lot of people, I mean, I hear that. It's like, oh, we'll have to eat kachoris and pakoris. Well, kachoris and pakoris are not necessarily Shraddh menu. So, I think we should be thinking about these things now. What I'm trying to say is that, is it necessary that when you are doing a Shraddh that you should be feeding kachoris and pakoris to the ancestor who's passed away? I mean, who made those rules? I mean, sometimes I feel we need to just think about these things. I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying we need to think about it. That's
See,
what
what I know
About
is,
this,
okay, sorry, please go ahead.
no. You can go ahead. I will
Okay.
after
Okay.
you.
So
Yeah.
we know at the most of the people who are left, the immediate ones, right? And so we know possibly their food taste, what they liked. We
correct.
can't go beyond whom we don't know. At the most,
Correct.
we can go up to grandparents, and if you're lucky, great grandparents. So if we are seeing them what they have, we are eating. So that is what we can cook, and we say, okay, they like this particular thing, so let's bring that for them. So we try to remember what our people who are departed like, so we bring those things, right? So
Yeah.
that's the intent, that who has left, what that person liked. So we can't go all the way back. There is no way to find out what my 7th generation wanted, or what they wanted to eat. So whatever I know, I will bring. And as you rightly said, kachori is possibly, you must be knowing somebody who really liked it. So that's why you mentioned the word kachori. Somebody else, something else, barfi, modak, whatever. So that's a way of just, things we like, we are putting it in the front, and say, please, isko, they can't touch it
Please
physically,
enjoy
but
it.
yeah,
Please enjoy the
exactly.
party.
Yeah.
So the way I would like to answer this question is that think about all the cravings that we have personally, that cravings that we see our children have, cravings that we see other people in the family have, and try to feed your ancestors those items during Shraddh. That would be a suggestion. I'm not saying it's a solution. I'm not saying I know all the answers. I'm just saying give it a try, if it makes any sense to you. It's the law of karma, eventually. Secondly, the other thing to keep in mind is that, how sometimes, kids are born, and why do we all have different tastes? We don't have the same taste, even if we come from the same family. Why is that? Because we have our previous karma. We already have our previous interests and likes. So, when we are born, we choose a family, a food, everything that is not always a combination of what we like. It's also a combination of what we don't like, because we need to go through that experience. Like sometimes, even as an 18-year-old, when I was writing my college application, I used to wonder what's the purpose of life. And after a lot of searching, I'm not saying that this is the answer, but the answer for me personally is to experience everything possible. Because my understanding is that once soul goes through all kinds of processing of all kinds of emotions and all kinds of thoughts, that's when it becomes kind of pure and clean and, what should I say, experienced enough to then merge at a higher level. So anyway, also one more person asked if ghosts are real. So again, I'll refer you to the book Astral Body by Arthur Powell. And also if you read Master's book, Pranic Psychotherapy, he also talks about that. So more than ghosts, okay. So sometimes what happens is that when a person dies, and let's say they some portion of their energy is left behind in that place where they died. Okay. And sometimes that energy is large enough or strong enough or big enough or sufficient to take a shape. And so it takes a shape, and because it has the leftover energy of, the soul that has departed, it tends to look like that soul, and it also tends to behave like that soul. So to understand some of this in more depth, one has to read the books Astral Body, Physical Body, the Mental Body, Astral Body, and the Etheric Body by Arthur Powell. And of course, Master Chokoksri's books are extremely helpful in understanding some of these things. So if you're seeing your ancestors asking for certain kinds of foods in your dreams, I don't think it's good or bad. Just think of it as your ancestors communicating with you and just feed them. You know, we feed animals, we feed dogs, we do charity. Why not feed our ancestors? It's so simple, no? They're giving you a message so clearly by coming in your dreams. Because again, keep in mind that 1/3 of the population of the planet is in the astral world. And the people who are waiting to be born are also in the astral world at sort of different levels. So the levels that we go to is the level that, you know, we are at. So we'll meet people at a similar level till they incarnate. But you also need to also be aware, again, this is mentioned in Arthur Powell's books, that you also need to be aware that anybody in the astral plane can take on any shape that they want. So let's say, for example, I'm very fond of, I don't know, XYZ person, right? Let's just say Lord Krishna, for instance, he's like my favorite example. So let's say I'm very fond of Lord Krishna. Okay, so when I go into a dream, then some prankster will show up as Lord Krishna and give me all kinds of instructions and dreams and blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, you know, Bhagavan, you know, God came in my dream and told me this, that, and the Mary. Question is, how are you going to differentiate whether that was a prankster? And it's possible, you know, anything is possible. So it's possible that our guru, our parents, our grandparents, somebody who we love did actually come and give us, you know, have a conversation with us in the astral world. But the point is, how will we differentiate whether it's a prankster or whether it was really that person? How will you do that? How will you do that? So again, the practices that we do when we meditate, when we purify our body, we, you know, clean our chakras, all our 11 chakras, and we you know, in Pranic Healing, we talk about 11 chakras, right? So we clean the chakras, we energize the chakras, we purify the chakras, we strengthen the chakras. Why do we do all that? So that we can differentiate, so that we can develop our ability to think and perceive clearly. So that's when virtue development comes in. And starting from basic Pranic Healing, we talk about the virtues, right? Yes, Riti, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, Atma Namaste, ma'am.
Atma Namaste.
Ma'am, I have a question. Like when a unborn child is in his mother's womb, they get craving. Sometimes to eat sweet or sometimes to eat sour, anything of that sort. So
Yes,
is it that also past life that he or she is carrying?
it's basically the, I would say it is basically the prarabdha, that is basically the nature of the child that is going to be born. So
Okay.
it's just started. Once its mental body and astral body is formed, it is already seeking the foods that it wants. So the mother starts to crave for it.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
It's a way of satisfying the need, no? And that's why they also say that you should satisfy your needs, but not overindulge. So ye nahi hai ki, you know, if you're feeling like eating lots of laddus, then you just go around eating more and more and more and more laddus. Not a good idea. That, again, this is my thought. Okay, I may be completely wrong, as I said. As Sri Ram says, you know, it's called going wrong with confidence. But anyway, what I'm saying is that, you know, use your discretion. That suppose I'm craving for something. Me as a human being, I'm craving for whatever, chocolate. Okay, I'll eat some chocolate. But I don't need to eat the whole bar. I don't need to eat 5 bars of chocolate. So you satisfy the craving, but at the same time, start the process of self-control for yourself as well as for the baby inside. After puja, is it
Okay, ma'am.
possible that some of the beings still remain here? Well, if the beings are there, then they'll remain. Hopefully with the puja, some of them will leave and merge with the light. And how can you know it? Again, as you develop, you know, as you develop mental body, emotional body, astral body, you develop your perceptions, you will be able to perceive. Sometimes we just walk into a room and we feel that something is there. right? So we have to develop that sense rather than deny it. See, the entire last, what, we are in 2025. So starting from like, I think what, I don't know, 499 AD is when Master says was the lowest point of, when people just believed in the physical world, right? That's in the existence of God is self-evident, and that is again drawn from the holy science by Sri Yukteswar Giri. So I feel that, in the last, whatever, 1,000 years, things have been going downwards, and now they're starting to go upwards. So the consciousness is changing. Previously it was not, it's not about whether there is a ghost or whether there is a spirit. The question is, what is that spirit here to do? And if it's a bad spirit, you have to handle it accordingly. Similarly, as suppose if there's a thief coming into the house, how are you going to handle it? And if you have a friend coming to the house, how are you going to handle it? So you handle it similarly. And of course, blessing them, feeding them and requesting them. And you also have to understand that sometimes these beings, they come to certain people because they also have the sense that this person can possibly help them. So again, just to give you an experience, this is something that we did, a couple of us, me and a couple of my co-pranic healers. We went to a building and we tried to release a lot of souls because there was a lot of things going on in that piece of land, like fights and legal battles, and I don't know, all kinds of weird things were happening. People also said that they saw the previous owner of the building who had committed suicide in the building. He was roaming around. So when we did scanning, we felt that it's not that his soul has not left, because his soul is actually reincarnated, but there is these remnants and they are just they're like doing mischief. So, we started a process of releasing the souls. And I mean, I'm writing a book on it, so let's see.
When you say you would try to release souls, meaning, are you saying there are methods in pranic healing that will help you to release souls, or this is something beyond pranic healing?
It is pranic healing techniques. It is pranic healing techniques, but it's, I guess I would say it's an experimental pranic healing technique. But just like you can clean your house with pranic healing techniques, you can clean land, you can use blessings, you can use twin hearts meditation. So there are many applications. We're just trying to build a group of specialized activity, because there's so many land disputes going on all over the place. So we thought if we can
In
find
which course all these techniques are taught? In which course?
it's not really taught yet.
Okay. Okay.
So would you conduct such a nurturing session where we can learn?
No, I don't think so. I think it's experimental, but we'd be more than happy to come and experiment on because it's not something that we do alone. It's not one person activity. It's like a group activity. It's like a whole ceremony. Sorry, I think I just digressed, but anyway. So the reason I was just bringing this up is that somebody asked, are there ghosts? So we have to understand whether they are ghosts or whether they are just souls that are stuck and they're just making all this mischief to get our attention so that we can help them. So for me personally, maybe it was all this mischief was being created so that I would pay attention and do something about it. And I do know how to do something about it.
So ma'am,
Yes.
this is Manji. So what you were just mentioning, that you are doing this experimental thing. So in this experimental thing also we do the same things, right? Clean, bless, cut the cord. So it's basically what we are saying is it's the thought process that place should be pure. Like we do it to our house, we do it to that. So
You can
anywhere
try doing
the
the 7 steps of pranic healing. However,
yes.
I would highly suggest that don't do it unless you have a clairvoyant on your team. Do it only if you have 7 practicing Aratic yogis. So there's just some precautions that I think one should take. Sorry, this whole talk is going in a different direction.
No, it's a very interesting talk, because sometimes you just feel that at certain places you go to, even it's basements or it's some places, because we need to end up going into basements or places which are dark in this thing. So when going through those places, you just say, bless whoever is around, cut the cord while coming back, when this thing. So it's basically not going into the levels which you are saying, but doing the same things at that point of time, which we have been taught as pranic healers to follow, right?
Yeah. And I'm also saying that according to my understanding, not understanding, I would say, I would just say, it's like something that I'm still validating is that, whatever our traditions are in whatever religion, whatever country you may be in, if there is any tradition or any ritual that is being followed, try to understand it. Do it with belief. Instead of saying, I don't understand why we are doing this, how about if you were to say, I want to understand why we are doing this? And then in the process of doing it, try to figure out which one should be continued and which one should be abandoned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
Don't
sense.
just follow everything blindly, but don't reject it blindly either, because there may be something in there that we don't understand. So, something recently came up, personal came up recently, and this was in reference to, marriage. And in our kind of community, there's something called a gotra, and we don't marry in the same gotra. Okay. So, and I'm sure that applies in other parts of the world also, they may be having, but it's not exactly the caste system. So the idea is that the genetic pool of a gotra, should not intermarry within itself. Now, if we look like even maybe even 100 years ago, the number of people that were there in the world and the number of people that are there in the world today is hugely different. The gene pool is not that small anymore within the same gotra. So, it's something that we have to think about, is all that I'm saying. That is it relevant? Is actually marrying within the gotra in today's date and time, is it, something to be done or not to be done? I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm just saying these are things that are practical for me also, because my kids are growing up. My elder one is 24. So, sooner or later, this topic will come up for me. So all I'm saying is that, we respect our traditions, at the same time, we explore, we understand, and we try to build up and using our knowledge of prana, of the soul that we learn in Achieving Oneness, using our knowledge of prana that we learn in basic pranic healing, understanding what the etheric body is, the astral body is, the mental body is, the causal body is. With all this understanding, I think we can really make ourselves lives better, and also our ancestors who may have left the body. Does that help?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So again, as we say in master school, not that these are necessarily directly master's teachings, but I've just tried to implement and understand things from a perspective where they make sense to me, and hopefully they make sense to other people. Yeah. So when someone, yeah. Okay, so very interesting question. Just one second. So somebody is asking, when someone in the physical body said not to do puja and rituals, but we get a strong feeling to do the rituals, how do we help them? Well, I would do it if it was something happening to me. Firstly, I would ask for forgiveness, that I know you told me not to do the rituals, but I need to do them for my own satisfaction. So please forgive me and go ahead and do the rituals. I mean, if you're asking me what you should do, then this is what I would do. Not necessarily that it's right. So do we need the blessings of our ancestors for doing AY? I think we need the blessings of everybody. Anybody who's willing to bless me for my soul development, I'm on. I'm willing to take it. Yes? So shall we close? Okay, let's just do a short prayer. We have Shraddh coming up, at least in India, I think on the 16th, and it finishes on the 2nd of October. So anyway, so let's pray for our ancestors. So I'll just put up my little ancestor chart. Even if you don't know who your ancestors are, that's fine. You can just start to build it up. I think this is just something that I think we can do. So here we go. Here's my ancestor chart. Okay, so let's close our eyes, connect our tongue to the palate, inhale and exhale slowly. Let us invoke to the Supreme God, Divine Father, Divine Mother. We thank you for your priceless blessings, for divine light, love, and power. We thank you. Thank you for blessing all our ancestors, 7 generations of our family, our spouse's family. May any negative energies attached to these, any karmas that need to be worked out, be disintegrated, extracted, and raised to higher vibrations by the blessings of the Supreme God. May we be able to understand these deep sciences and use them to improve our lives, to improve the lives of others, to work out our karmas, to forgive, and to practice the law of mercy. We thank you in full faith. So thank you, everyone. I hope we answered your questions. And
Thank you for the session.
someone's asking, what about children visiting tombs, graveyards, and energies? I would say it's okay for them to go, but maybe you want to shield them by using pranic psychic self-defense techniques. So places where there are tombs, the difference in cremation and burying is that when we cremate a body, then there's nothing left for the soul to come back into. But if there is a physical body that's still there, then there is a higher chance of attachment of the soul. But of course, in some countries it's just not practical. So it's just people do whatever is practical. But where was I? So taking children to tombs and things, I think it's okay. I think it's fine if you can, if you want to take the children, but just protect them, and maybe you can just invoke to angels before you take them in. And then this other question is about women doing puja. So I personally feel that is not too much of an issue. I mean, if you have a boy or a girl or whatever, I don't think it's that. Again, that's my personal view. Okay, I still haven't found a valid reason why a woman cannot do it. So I have not, and I'm just one of those people who from a very early age has been asking questions about our religion and about our practices. And even when I was with the master, I would ask not him directly, but I would think of a lot of questions. Yes, there are cameras that can capture orbs. There are cameras that can. We've all learned about Kirlian photography in basic pranic healing, right? Where the aura is captured. So yeah, I think orbs and other things can also be captured on a camera. That's what I think. Anyway, so that's it. See you. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.